Welcome to the Sun Parlour Coffee House Sessions. I'm Jan Hall from Folk Roots Radio. St John's singer-songwriter Ian Foster has just released his latest album, Sleepy Years, the follow-up to the very well-received The Great Wave from 2014. A musician who loves to tell stories in songs, Ian Foster's our special guest in the Sun Parlour Coffee House Session studio today, and he's coming up right now. Enjoy.
This song is called Postcards. It's from my newest album, Sleeper Years. And it's really a song about travel, and it's a song about the importance of the moment and where you are at a particular time and being present. So this is Postcards.
They send postcards to themselves to remind them what they shared. To remind them they were there, and there were answers between the lines of how they fared, crossing ground and air, a code for them, what they knew was treasure. They were sending an SOS back to themselves to not forget it. We can be wherever we want to be. They were sending an SOS back to themselves to not regret it. We can be whoever we want to be. They send postcards to themselves, another item for the shelf, a talisman made by and for the sender, a personal mystery on the other side of stock photography, there for anyone to read, sweet surrender. They were sending an SOS back to themselves to not forget it. We can be wherever we want to be. They were sending an SOS back to themselves to not regret it. We can be whoever we want to be. So write these words under the burning sun. The journey is only as far as we can run. Ooh, and remember this under some foreign sky. We are here to live our lives. They send postcards to themselves to remind them how they shared, to remind them they were there, and there were answers.
The House is a song from my 2011 album, The Evening Light. It is a song about resettlement in small Newfoundland communities for various reasons, medical, economic. Some of the people in the most isolated communities there in the 1950s and 60s had to move to bigger centers. So this song explores a man coming back to his childhood home.
As I stood in front of the house, as it kneeled in front of me, where the roof had sort of caved in, some nails were bared like teeth, and if the doorway was an eye, it held a crooked look of surprise that we had let it get so far down the line. Well, we move on, it's what we do. And we try to let go of all that we've held on to. Well, deep down a country road where so few ever go, the house kept a silent vigil for the one she used to know. But time, it did its work, just like nature, like gravity, and they slowly broke her spirit as they once did with you and me. But luckily we move on, it's what we do, and we try to let go of all that we've held on to. But as I stood in front of that house, as it kneeled in front of me, I could see in her broken frame the way it all used to be. I guess the poverty of our youth, well, it just went to our heads. But I don't remember the hard times now, I just remember the day you said, we gotta move on, it's what we gotta do, and try to let go of all that we've held on to. Well, we move on, it's what we do, and we try to let go of these things we hold on to.
This song right here is from my Great Wave album, 2014, and it has very fond memories for me in terms of place. I actually wrote it one October day, a very unusually hot October day in Charlotte Lake, Ontario. So it was the sun was out and the mood was right. So right here.
Seems like now we crossed the river wide. Seems like now I got you by my side. Now all we gotta do is try to remain true to the little bit of grace these wandering hearts provide. Seems like now we're at a mountain low. It seems like now it'd be easy to let you go. But I don't want some twist of fate losing me your pretty face. Don't know much, that's one thing that I know. Oh, what does it mean? All these spaces in between, losing love and letting it set you free. Or maybe it's easier than we ever thought it could be. So slow down, darling, stay right here with me. Seems like now I've been on the road so long. Seems like now your voice is just a song. Sweet and low, something I need, coming to me on the breeze, breaking my heart just before it's gone. Oh, what does it mean? All these spaces in between, losing love and letting it set you free. Or maybe it's easier than we ever thought it could be. So slow down, darling, stay right here with me. What does it mean? All the empty spaces in between, losing love and letting it set you free. Or maybe it's easier than we ever thought it could be. So slow down, darling, stay right here with me. So slow down, darling, stay right here with me. So slow down, darling, stay right here with me.
Different Songs is the oldest song from today. It's from my 2009 album We Begin Here, and it was written on a very, very torrentially rainy drive in New Brunswick as the initial ideas came to me. So I was singing it into an iPhone at the time, and recently I've come to play it more and more at shows as a result of a particular guitar effect that I use, a delay guitar effect. So here it is.
A man singing out from an ivory tower, a man singing out from the trash in the gutter, people singing out from the space between, everyone else in the space between. Lovers singing out from a warm bedside, another lover singing in the cold of the night. He's singing with his mouth pressed to her ear, singing so loud she's gotta hear. So many different songs, so many different songs. Kids singing out from the gambling streets, only the luckiest lives complete. Kids singing out in dying scorn, because of blood, cause money, cause where he was born. A man singing out from the edge of a line, a man singing out with a fire inside, singing as he wrestles his family tree. He said, I'm wrestling the blood that runs through me. So many different songs, so many different songs. And the chorus is always the same. It's long and it's love, it's hope, it's pain. Some sing along with a melody, some are singing out against what should never be. Chorus is always the same. It's long and it's love, it's hope, it's pain. Some sing along with a melody, some are singing out against what should never be. I'm singing to you from the downtown core, singing to me from the ocean shore, singing together for the space between, singing now for the space between.
That's Ian Foster live in the Quantum Sound production studio for the Sun Parlour Coffee House Sessions. Been great to have you join us tonight. I got to say, I've actually interviewed Ian, 3 or 4 times now. I actually just recorded a radio interview about the new album, Sleepy Years. I would say you're probably one of the hardest working musicians we get coming through. We're going to talk not just about your music, but also about your film as well. But let's start the interview by talking about how you got started in music.
Yeah, well, I guess my start was going into the Radio Shack in the mall in St. John's and playing all of the keyboards until they told me to stop. And my parents took that as a sign that maybe they should get me a keyboard to keep me from getting kicked out of Radio Shack. So one Christmas I got a keyboard and I started to just noodle around and learn some things on my own. And they took that as further sign of piano lessons. So that's when
you started on piano and then graduated to guitar.
Yeah, and guitar was a little bit before high school, but really in high school was when I started to pick up that instrument for real and voice as well around that time.
I am always fascinated about this because a lot of us have had instrument lessons and some people keep it up. Some people like myself, it tends to slip by the way. And you get interested in other things like radio and what have you.
Sure.
I always get fascinated when people say, oh, maybe this is something I may want to do. When did you start to write songs?
I started probably several years after playing piano. And I found that, I think the creative palette is just based, of course, on what your breadth of knowledge is. So like my first songs that I wrote were instrumental piano pieces because I only played piano and I didn't sing at that point. So what I had was my knowledge of that instrument. So those songs were that way. Then I picked up guitar, and guitar has a lot more of sort of a strumming sensibility, at least when you first start. And that feels more accompaniment based. Piano, you're playing bass and treble clefs. So you're doing the accompaniment in the left hand, you're playing melodies in the right hand. Guitar, when it's a strumming instrument anyway, you want that melody, you're looking for it. So all of a sudden my songwriting started to take on a lyrical form when I picked up the guitar to be accompanied by guitar chords. And now I feel like I'm shifting into, I do a lot more finger picking, a lot more sort of being the whole band as much as I can. And so I'm sort of melding those worlds.
So the latest album, Sleepy Years, tell us a little bit about that one.
Sure. Sleepy Years is the first album in 3 years for me, and it's really, I think that as usual, it's come from like the songs on the album come from touring experiences and new stories, and there'll always be that cycle. I feel for me that I make a record, I go out on the road, and you meet incredible people and you have incredible experiences amidst the hard work of driving and playing and sleeping. That's usually what happens. Some eating, so that's all the same, in terms of where the songs came from. But I've also produced a bunch of records for artists over the last 3 years, and I've also done some film work over the last 3 years, both as writer-director and also as composer. And I feel like if there was one thing that I personally could say has evolved a little bit in the production and the sound side of my records, it's those experiences.
Which is interesting you say that because, I'm obviously interviewed you a few times. I certainly love your music. You really have this developing reputation as not just a songwriter, but actually as a storyteller through song. And I feel on this new album, actually, that's even coming through more. And I just wonder whether it's your interest in film that's really bringing this out.
That's an interesting question. Maybe it's not for me to make the commentary on that. That's a hard thing to answer, when you're trying to self-describe your own process or something like that. I do think that just in the long run of being a writer and being someone just always trying to perfect the craft better, I often tell people it's like, you don't run the marathon every day, but you might jump on the treadmill and practice every day for the marathon, and songwriting is sort of like that. You're always kind of training for when the moment comes, you can make the best use of it. Maybe the song shows up, the inspiration shows up as just a big marble slab, and you're the sculptor who's got to try to chip the sculpture out of the slab, and hopefully as the years go by, what you chip out of there just gets better and better and more perfect, or whatever perfect is. So I mean, that's how I view my own long game creativity, is just that dedication to the craft, and hopefully just writing, making a better and better use of those inspirational moments when they come.
Well, it's been great to have you join us. If people want to learn more about your music and obviously the new album Sleepy Years, how can they do that?
IanFoster.ca is the official website. There is KeystoneFilm.net as well, if people are interested in Keystone. And of course, I'm on all the social media sites. So Facebook, Ian Foster Music, Twitter, Ian_Foster, Instagram, Fostro, F-O-S-T-R-O. You can find me anywhere.
I was saying how hard he works, so that's great. We've got time for one more song, and I know there's a song we haven't talked about, and I'm going to get you to tell the wonderful story that goes along with it. But I think you're going to play the song that you wrote for Ron Hynes, the late great Ron Hynes, who died a few years ago. Tell us a little bit about this song and the impact that Ron Hynes has had on your own career.
Absolutely. Well, I co-wrote a song with Ron for my first solo album, Room in the City. And that was back in, I guess, 2006, 2007, right when that was my very first record with the band, was released in 2006. So it was very much when I was starting out, in terms of touring and playing. And, working with Ron at that point was a huge lesson in songwriting and craft. His emphasis on craft was huge. And so therefore, I still feel that way. The best songs are the ones where, that you could tell that an editor went through. And Ron was a great editor. People don't talk about that. It sounds not cool when you're a songwriter or a rock guy or a folk, a guy on stage. He was a great editor of words, right down to the single individual words in a line. And so that was a really great lesson at a time when I needed it. And his encouragement was also huge to me at a point where, a person of his stature saying things to you positively about your songwriting, that meant a lot to me. So over the years, he would kind of show up in and out of my life and offer little tidbits of advice, and so it was a special thing for me. And then when he died, obviously it was it was a sad moment, and yet this incredibly infamous moment now in Newfoundland history, because when he died, within a half an hour of that news coming out, all the power went out in downtown St. John's, some 20,000 homes, and former bandmates of his couldn't go on stage at gigs they were supposed to play. The local record store put on his album when they found out the news. Fred's Records put on Crier's Paradise to close the store, and all the power went out on Duckworth Street up to and including the building attached to Fred's, but not Fred's. There were all these. The music still got to be played. So there were dozens of these stories that people would have, big and small, of that night the lights went out and Ron Hynes passed away. And I was sitting in my home in downtown when the power went out, and I was sitting there in the dark, and I got a text from a friend giving me the news, and I picked up my guitar because it's one of the few things that doesn't require electricity in this day and age, and I was just noodling in the dark on the guitar thinking about Ron, and the song began to come, and I finished at 2:30 that morning and ended up playing it at his funeral and at his last gig, which was booked at the Ship Pub in St. John's, and much of St. John's, many musicians came to honor his last booked performance locally, which was, as you can imagine, a hugely special and surreal night. So it was a huge honor to be part of those celebrations of the man, and that's where the song came from.
It's a great song and a perfect way to finish this interview. Ian Foster, it's a great pleasure having you join us. This is Ian Foster with You Left a Song for Ron Hynes. Enjoy.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks again.
So this next song is a song that I wrote for the late, great Ron Hynes, songwriter out of Newfoundland. It is called You Left a Song.
You left a song in the stones of Solomon's Lane, a song at the bar of the Rose, a song in the water under bridges you burned, a song for a lifetime that goes. You left a song with the dogs roaming the streets, a song for running out the door. You left a song in the honor of an island in tears, a song on the ocean's floor. So tell me, how did you make them all shine, even in the darkest night? How did you break so many hearts just by turning off the lights? You left a song on the ice, a song in the cards, in the eye of the needle's sting, a song in a young man's rambling shoes, a song at the heart of things. You left a song in the rooms of your empty home, a song on a distant shore. You left a song on the step as you were walking away, to show us there could be more. So tell me, how did you make them all shine, even in the darkest night? How did you break so many hearts just by turning off the lights? So tell me, how did you make them all shine, even in the darkest night? How did you break so many hearts just by turning off the lights? Just by turning off the lights.
Received The Great Wave from 2014. Ian Foster's a musician who loves to tell stories. This is it, you say I got pressure.